Ha'olam ve'imru. Amen. Please do sit down. Now, you may be wondering why our Shabbat Shira musicians and Maya have come into the service uncharacteristically early for them, given that Shabbat Shira doesn't start till 7:15 p.m. and given that in the Stern Hall right now we have a dinner going on for our families who are going to be joining the Shira service, and indeed after Shabbat Shira there will also be a communal dinner. But it's because once every, well, maybe twice a year, I think, Maya, if we're very lucky, instead of a rabbi's sermon, we get a musical sermon. So it's over to Maya.
Purim is just over 3 weeks away. And in that spirit, tonight's musical sermon is about a special character among Eastern European Jewry called, in Yiddish, a Badkhn. I came across the term while I was looking for Yiddish songs from Central Europe for one of the Jewish jams that I lead here every month. First, though, I am curious, how many of you tonight who are married had a badkhn? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, people are starting to raise their hands. Yeah. I did not have one at my own interfaith wedding blessing, and when I'm hired to sing for wedding ceremonies, I'm usually standing near the chuppah when the badkhn is taking place. The basic premise of the badkhn in a traditional Jewish wedding is for the groom to see the bride, verify that it is indeed the woman he intends to marry, and then cover her with a veil. The Sephardi and now Israeli version of this happens on the aisle, kind of on the way to the chuppah, where people can witness it. But the Ashkenazi version is for it to be a private ceremony in a separate room. We are progressive Jews, so our version tends to be more equal. There is a veiling, there is a wearing of a talit, and sharing a private moment before the chuppah. Among Eastern European Jews, up until the early 20th century, a special ceremony would take place just before the badkhn. It was performed by the Badkhn. The Badkhn was a hired wedding entertainer, a sort of master of ceremonies, dating back to at least the 16th century. The Badkhn would entertain everyone by literally standing on a chair in order to deliver what can only be described as a roast of the wedding guests. There is a theory that stand-up comedy comes from this tradition. We happen to know a lot about the Badkhn because even in the olden days, they used to sue each other for stealing one another's material. These were mean jokes, the kind where everybody else thinks it's hilarious, but the person that it's about is probably steaming on the inside. We owe the seeds of what is commonly thought of as Jewish humor to a single date in the 17th century. July 3rd, 1661, the Council of Vilna took place following 20 years of devastating pogroms which killed hundreds of thousands of Ashkenazi Jews. That day, it was decided that the root cause of these pogroms must be from not being pious enough. So they banned any extravagant amusements like jugglers, for instance, or wearing fancy jewelry. The Badkhn, however, was exempt because apparently that style of joking was so unpleasant it could hardly be called amusing. I think Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David should write a thank you letter to the old rabbis of Vilna. So what has this got to do with music? The Badkhn had another big job to do. They would guide the bride and groom through different parts of their wedding day. The most musically important one was entering the bride's room where she was seated, called the bazetten, with her friends and other women, and to bazingen, to sing to her during the seating, accompanied by klezmer musicians. I would like to sing for you a bazetten, as sung by a Polish man called Badkhn, which his mother taught him. It was sung at her own wedding sometime in the 19th century. Badkhn was a very musical man. He moved to London after World War II, and this song was recorded and notated in the late 1990s by Joshua Horowitz, who's a fantastic klezmer and Jewish music expert who lives in the States. He sent me the recording and the notation. Now, the purpose of the bazetten was to make the bride cry. It's not about a sad tune, it's not melodic. It's rather logogenic, a syllabic recitation. We, the Jews, are a people where in the midst of a wedding ceremony, we stop being happy for a minute to remember that the temple was destroyed and that life is very difficult. So these anxiety-inducing lyrics should not come as a big surprise. I will sing it first in Yiddish, and then I will do it in English so that you can understand. We're only doing about half of this. Oh, mein teuer Kalle, mein teuer Kind, wo soll sich dir so genau erzählt, als dein Gewein so euch den Heint, fahr dem Besdien של המלגה. Euch sollst du beten, dem Beurer Eulam, mit a bissle Tränen mein. Als du sollst nicht bleiben, kein Jung Almune und Kinder klein, je Sohn im Kinder. Euch sollst du beten, dem Eure Eulam, mit a bissle Tränen mein. Als du sollst Chalile nicht darfen, mit a verschwend Ponim zu dein Tate Mame zurück zu gehen. And it means, oh, my dear bride, my dear child, what can I tell you just now to make your crying come today before the Beis Din, before the court on high? And pray to the Almighty with a few tears that you should not become a widow and your children little orphans. And pray to the Almighty with a few tears, that you should not, heaven forbid, have to return in disgrace to your father and to your mother. Well, if I was the bride, I would probably cry just then. Badkhn still do exist in the Hasidic world. They're probably a bit different now, a little bit less harsh than they were in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. And musically, this style does still exist in some klezmer music, in the doinas that you find in klezmer. Now, around the beginning of the 20th century, badkhns became less popular, but in a kind of role reversal, people wrote and performed parodies of the Badkhn songs. They became very popular. There are lots of recordings. Now, my klezmorim, you may recognize them as Shabbat Shira musicians, also as Buenos Klezmer, the band. We've practiced just now something that was recorded in the 1940s by Henry Garrow. It's called the Kolomeyer Badkhn. The tune of the chorus probably comes from a Romanian song, although the verse is sung in that syllabic Badkhn style. And the words are very, very mean. A New Yorker called Nikolai Borodulin wrote out a translation for me, so I'm going to read it to you. Here's the chorus in one verse. Oh, that wedding entertainer from Kolomeyer, he was some fella. Oh, that wedding entertainer from Kolomeyer, he used to play so touching on the violin. When a fat maiden would come to him, he used to scratch his beard. He was afraid that, heaven forbid, her wedding dress shouldn't explode on her. Oh, Kalisha, Kalisha, bride, bride, you take after your fat Uncle Shmuel. You need, I don't know, maybe a 30-meter dress. Oh, bride, you shouldn't move too much while you're dancing because you might lose your groom otherwise. This is what it sounds like. Sein Fiddle. Als is gekippt zu ihm an den Besule, fliegt bei dem Bärdele sich kratzen. Flög mal hoben as Chalile, das hippe Kleider solche wir nicht platzen. Oi, Kalische, Kalische, mit gerobenem Schmiel dein Grobenvetter. Darf's haben auf Kleid gewesen, afscher 30 Meter. Oi, Kalische, Kalische, beim Tanzen sollst du sich nicht trefehlerin. Weil ich im Sorg doch am Mol der größten Fahrlerin. Oi, der Kolema, ihr Badkhn, oi, ist so geflein, jeder, oi, der Kolema, ihr Badkhn, fleht spinnherzig aus sein Fiddle. There is one other very important thing that the Badkhn had to do every single year. It was to write and perform the Purim spiel. Given that in addition to singing at weddings, I have spent many evenings this month writing this year's Purim spiel, and I've done about 12 of them over the last 12 years, I wonder if that means that I might be sort of, kind of, not so mean, but West London Synagogue's Badkhn. Shabbat Shalom.